And a quick look at the Romulan Warbird. Most of my time has been taken up with this Enterprise, but I've got primer on. I've got the hole drilled for the spotlight on the inside. I have the white paint on the inside for the light bouncing around for the windows. And I'm probably not going to put white, but I'm going to use this reflective tape and a strip of green LED tape to light these up with an SMD LED pointed towards the front to take care of these little windows here. And then strips placed in the right area to bounce light around for everything else. Now, if the windows don't light up from that, and I'm pretty sure they will, I can fill them up with fiber optic, but I really don't want to use that much fiber on this thing. Anyways, there's the Romulan Warbird, and I will be starting on this one here very shortly. Well, I've been doing quite a bit of work here on the Enterprise D model at this point. I wanted to show you guys what I had been working on and how it's working. I ran into some issues using the tin tape and being able to solder it, so it made a decent connection, but as you can see, it's working, and not too badly either, actually. It's looking quite nice. I can't wait to get some paint on there. I have the rest of it going. I've also been working on the Romulan Warbird as well, but that's I just got the lights in that I was waiting for, the strip lighting. I'm going to be using a warm white in that and a bright white in this. Also got the light for the deflector dish. So I did some stuff with the deflector. I used I think it's called a sticky tack. I don't know if you ever use it to put posters on the wall without nails, but I used that and a toothpick and dipped it in a dull coat lacquer and then pulled it out and let it dry, and we got a nice diffused look. Now when there's paint on that, it will cover up the majority of that, and it'll glow just around the edges and kind of expand out. Like you would see, I used tin tape on the top and around the outside as a reflector and to keep the blue light from bleeding into the white. Now let's get to the real meat and potatoes of this thing, and that is this guy here. So next time I do this, you can see I have some mistakes over here. Yeah, that had to be redone. But so the tin tape won't take solder. It just does not like it whatsoever. Next time I do this, I'll use copper tape. I'll go find some at a hardware store somewhere, and that'll take a solder way better than this did. But to get around it, pretty much what I did is once I had my wires set up in the nacelles, and this guy right here was my first test subject, and as you can see, it finally came out working correctly. Hooray! Yeah, I melted some plastic. It was pretty gnarly, but got it all taken care of. So what I do is say you have your bundle of wires, kind of like this guy right here. Yeah, sorry, bad connection. You take this bundle of wires and you put a big glob of solder on it. Then, let me grab here. Say right here, where you want to make your connection and bridge the two. You take those bundle of wires with a big chunk of solder and you put an additional piece of tape on top of the other tape. Then I have this pair of tweezers right here that puts pressure on things so you don't have to hold it the entire time. Now I use that to hold this down while I heated it up with the soldering iron, hence the holes. This was my first attempt at that. And it worked somewhat, but then I realized I might as well connect the two so I don't have to do it again. Anyway, so I heated up the solder on the end of those bundles of wires, and then the pressure pushed it down, and the heat of the soldering iron burned off the sticky backside of this, so it made a connection. And that was how I was able to do it. Now, on this side, on the inside, I did it a little bit better because I had the experience from this side. But what I had to do was pretty much the same thing I did here, but I have this square piece attached to the end of this thin piece here, and I wrapped that around it, and using the same technique with the tweezers, I was able to hold it down while applying heat and melt the solder into the rolled up piece of tin tape. Now let me give you an example of that, because I'm not going to touch this again. I mean, it's working. Okay, so for reference sake, we're going to say that this is our bundle of wires right here. Right. Now we're going to say there's also a big glob of solder on that, right? So we're going to take our piece of tape, which is going to simulate our connection, and we're going to wrap that piece of tin tape. Now keep in mind, this is the tab of tape that I had at the end of one of these, right? So this is theoretically wrapped around your solder and ready to go. So now, sorry, I got an iPhone. Now you take this pair of tweezers here, and you have it so it holds it against it, and it's putting constant pressure on it. And say this is my soldering iron. I'm going to come in here with solder, and I'm going to get all around this, and it flows in down the wires around this and melts off some of the adhesive, so it makes a connection one way or the other. And then when that's done, and you've checked your connection, and I recommend if you try this and you're using tin tape like I did the first time, you check your connection after every connection, because this thing was finicky. It took me 2 days to get both of these nacelles working. It was definitely an exercise in patience. But, so let's say we have this here, and it's soldered, melted, and the connection is good. Now take something like, I used a hot glue gun, and I pinned it down so that the connection cannot move. And from there, your connection is good. As you can see, it works quite well when you do that. And I used the same technique here as I already went over, and then I tapped this down with hot glue, so there's no way that this is going to move, and turn that off. So there you go. That's how I used the tin tape method. I would recommend copper tape, and that's what I'll be using for anything else I try to do like this. And shout out goes to Model Man Tom for putting that in a YouTube video so I could see it and augment it and try it myself. And yes, next time I will get the copper tape because it's so much easier. And as for those divots, I just need to fill those with paint so you don't get a light leak. I'll come back later with more on the Romulan Warbird as I get it together. I know this build log is the Romulan Warbird, but this is just an update on the Enterprise portion. And a quick look at how I'm doing the rest of the lighting for the rest of the ship. You can see I have a doubled up piece of bright white LED tape, and then a third one in the middle where there are no windows on the bottom, and that will deliver light up through the bridge section here. You can see I have one small hole drilled out for the light behind the bridge. I'm not going to put any flashing in this kit, there's just not enough room. And some fiber optics so I can get the green and red for the navigation lights on there. Now, I have a folded strip of 3 LEDs in here, so I get 2 that'll light the neck, and the bottom one folds over with another set of 3 on the bottom here, and that lights everything up beautifully. And I'm still in the process of light blocking off the deflector dish to keep that completely there. And the impulse engine, I made a little light box that's still drying, and I will put a 805 SMD LED in there, and that will light that one up, and I'll have impulse engines. These things are really, really tiny, and they're very difficult to solder. I mean, look at my finger compared to these things. And that's not even the smallest ones I have. Those are ridiculous. But anyways, there's that.
Thanks, folks. Keep modeling.
For more awesome science fiction models, make sure to stop by at sci-fi model action.com.